Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I hereby open the 55th meeting of the 37th session of the Human Rights Council. We shall continue to take action on draft resolutions. Next on our list of resolutions is L29, which is the situation of human rights in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It will be introduced by Bulgaria on behalf of the European Union and Japan. Bulgaria, you have the floor.
I thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor to introduce on behalf of the European Union, together with Japan, the draft resolution L29 entitled Situation of Human Rights in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The EU and Japan have been at the forefront of bringing the dire human rights situation in the DPRK to the attention of the Human Rights Council for over a decade now, starting with the creation of the mandate of the Special Rapporteur and later with the establishment of the Commission of Inquiry, whose landmark report was released 4 years ago. Last year, our resolution decided to strengthen for a period of 2 years the capacity of the OHCHR, including its field-based structure in Seoul, with a view to enhancing the current monitoring and documentation efforts, establishing a central repository of information and evidence, and having legal accountability experts assess all information and testimonies, with a view to developing possible strategies to be used in any future accountability process. Mr. President, despite the recent high-level talks held between the Republic of Korea and the DPRK being an encouraging signal and a positive step towards the improvement of inter-Korean relations, we remain deeply concerned by the human rights situation with ongoing, systematic and widespread gross human rights violations taking place in the DPRK, some of which may amount to crimes against humanity. It is our common responsibility as the international community and as members of this Council to ensure that this precarious human rights situation continues to receive the attention it deserves. Mr. President, the draft resolution before us aims to address the most pertinent issues related to the dire human rights situation in the DPRK. Furthermore, the resolution welcomes the steps taken to strengthen the capacity of the Office of the High Commissioner, including its field-based structure in Seoul, and encourages the Office of the High Commissioner to expedite the process for strengthening its capacity. In this regard, we appreciate the update made by the Deputy High Commissioner on the Human Rights Council on the 14th of March and the recent appointment of the high-level expert to lead the accountability project. This year's resolution also takes into account recent developments, such as the DPR's case ratification of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and that the visit by the Special Rapporteur of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in May last year. The EU and Japan have held open-ended consultations on the draft resolution and wish to thank all those who participated actively and constructively in this process, including civil society and NGOs. We hope that all delegations can support the adoption by consensus of this important resolution. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank you very much. Do I understand that Japan wants to add some word? Yes, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor to introduce, together with the EU, again this year, the draft resolution A/HRC/37/L29 entitled The Situation of the Human Rights in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The resolution recalls last year's United Nations General Assembly resolution that underscores very serious concerns regarding reports of abductions and other forms of human rights violations. The international community must continue to maximize pressure on and strongly urge North Korea to take concrete steps for cooperation with the international community and for the early resolution of the abduction issue. Mr. President, the draft resolution will continue to encourage the OHCHR to expedite the process of strengthening the capacity and welcome the recent steps taken to strengthening its capacity to this end. We look forward to our continued cooperation with the OHCHR. this draft resolution also decides to extend the mandate of the Special Rapporteur for another year. Taking this opportunity, we wish to thank all the Member States who participated constructively in the drafting process on this resolution, and those of you who have already co-sponsored this resolution. We sincerely call upon all the Council members to support the adoption of this draft resolution by consensus, just as we did last year. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank you very much. I've been informed that there are 7 additional co-sponsors to the draft of this resolution. And I'll now open the floor to the members of the Council to make general comments. Do I see any delegation wishing to take the floor? No. I'll pass the floor to the concerned country, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They are absent. Let me inform you that there are PBIs for this draft resolution, and we'll move to the explanation of vote before the vote. Do I see? Yes, I recognize Cuba.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you, Chair. The draft resolution is politically motivated against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It is a confrontational step, selective and discriminatory in nature. As a position of principle, Cuba objects to the imposition of selective mandates against individual countries. The draft resolution L29 violates the principles of respectful dialogue, non-selectivity, and non-politicization that should be real principles for the Human Rights Council. It is unacceptable that this is seen here in this body as a justification for possible actions by the Security Council directed against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea without excluding the use of force. This resolution should be used to then bring it before the International Criminal Court. So we must really take the road of respectful dialogue, non-selectivity, and non-politicization, and respect for the sovereignty of states. To continue promoting resolutions like this one would not help achieve the objectives that this body pursues here in the Human Rights Council. Mr. Chair, for all of the foregoing reasons, Cuba cannot support resolution L29 and therefore does not agree with the consensus on it. My delegation reiterates that this is a selective politicized mandate, that it does not it does not provide any added value. It does not help any progress with the pending issues that are singled out in the draft resolution, and it will not help us move towards a just solution with the agreement of all interested parties. Thank you very much.
I thank you, Excellency. I pass the floor to Venezuela.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Chair. The draft resolution L29 is against the principles of dialogue and that are really enshrined by this body. It promotes a policy of against the DPRK and the treatment of the situation, the human rights situation in the DPRK should also involve the country itself and thus contribute to improving the situation on the ground and working towards a consolidation of peace in the region. Mr. Chair, we reiterate our opposition to this draft resolution, which is motivated by political objectives and not the principles of universality, impartiality, and non-selectivity which govern the mandate of this body. Consequently, Venezuela would like to disassociate itself from the consensus on this draft resolution L29. Thank you very much.
I thank you, sir. I pass the floor to China.
Mr. Chairman, China believes that the countries should deal with the human rights problem according to the dialogue and cooperation, so as to promote the healthy development of the international human cause. For time, at this moment, the peninsular situation is seeing positive change. China hopes that all parties will do things that contribute to the relaxation of the situation and further make efforts so that the situation in the peninsula will develop in a better direction. And the L29, the resolution, does not meet the above objective. Therefore, we cannot join the consensus on this resolution. Thank you.
I thank you very much. Is there any other speaker? I don't see one. So we continue with the request for a vote. Is there any? I see none. May I take it that the resolution L29 may be adopted without a vote? It is so decided.